Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Monday, February 19, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, your second daily dose of happy for the day. And Wendy, we're off to an inauspicious start, but it's going to get better from here on. That's the way I look at it. It can only get better.
Absolutely.
And we are picking up where we left at the end of last week, talking about the book, The Law of Attraction, the basics of the teachings of Abraham. We're on section 2, and we're on a subsection that's a pretty exciting one. It's called, I Am Now in My Creative Workshop. Now, last week, of course, we spent time talking about what it's like to be in the workshop, what you can do there. This time, we're actually going to do some affirmations that are in there. But before we get into the affirmations, I do want to get in a couple of good things that are going on. First, believe it or not, I actually got to spend almost all of my day so far on editing the book. And let me tell you, Wendy, it's looking really, really good. So far, we still have, I think, 4 or 5 stories that we're waiting on. But so far, we've got something on the order of, I think it's 46 stories in so far from like 36 authors. And I'm like grouping all the topics together. We're going to have a lot of covers. There's a lot of different kinds of topics going on. So this is coming together really well, I think.
Oh, can you give us a preview of maybe some of the topics?
Absolutely not. No, of course I can. A lot of stuff on homes, believe it or not. A lot of house stories, houses and homes and offices that people have manifested into their lives. I would not have necessarily suspected that was going to be near the top of the list, but I think there's like 6 or 7 stories like that, which is rather remarkable.
People manifesting houses?
Houses and homes, and one who manifested a new office that was her ideal office for her practice. So, nice. All kinds of stuff like that, which is pretty interesting. We have a couple cars stories, a couple of money stories, a number of health stories, health improvement and so forth, getting over illnesses and things like that. A lot of relationship stories, a whole bunch of relationship stories. Yeah, so a lot of good stuff going on in this book. It's going to be really something, and I'm glad that I'm finally able to really dedicate the time like I've been wanting to make this book work, because I think it's going to be a good one.
Oh, sounds exciting.
Yeah. So how about you? What's happening at your end? Anything fun going on?
Anything fun? Well, today's my last day of vacation, because it's actually considered a legal holiday for our company because it's President's Day.
Right, yeah.
And so, it's interesting because I've always had this thing that when you take a vacation, there's an expectation when you come back to work or when you connect with people at your coworkers, they'll say, oh, what did you do? I hope you did something fun. And I just feel like I always let them down, or that I have to come up with something spectacular. And interestingly, I started not feeling great at the end of last week. I think I told you offline that I started getting kind of a scratchy throat. And it never amounted into anything major, but it's kind of like if you can picture, or, we've all experienced being sick before, but it's kind of like I've been sick, but without the major symptomology. The only thing that really led me to know I was really not feeling up to par is because I've just been really just lack of energy, very fatigued. And so I've been like sitting down, laying down, taking naps, watching TV, doing a lot of nothing, although I did get some stuff accomplished, whenever I did have the energy. And I guess part of me wants to know what's going on, because I recognize that anytime you're not feeling up to par, it's an indicator of something.
Right.
And so far, the guidance that I've gotten is that because of the massive amounts of changes I've been making, that I've put a lot of stress on my body without realizing it. And this to me is a really big aha, because mid last week I was starting to understand that I was letting go. I remember telling you that, I just had this incredible feeling of letting go. And it's not like I did it. It's like somehow this feeling just was upon me. And so I've been listening to a ton of different Abraham clips on YouTube, as well as the CDs that I have. And I've been really connecting with how essential it is to let go of the struggle. And I got to tell you, Walt, I would not have thought that as I've been working on my Project X, my experiment of testing the law of attraction and my ability to deliberately create, I never would have thought that I was putting so much stress on myself. But as you have noted in other times, I am really big time persevering. I mean, I persevere, I push, and it's like that efforting comes so natural to me, but not natural in a good way. I mean, like, it comes so natural, I don't even know I'm doing it. And what I'm recognizing now is I have let go. I've let go of Project X, not in that I'm giving up on it. Heavens no. I totally am focused on Project X. But I've let go of the struggle, trying to figure out how to make it happen and what to do next. And I'm sensing that the residual of finally letting go of the struggle, I'm not in that push mode. And so my body has had the ability to just kind of release all that effort, all that struggle. And now it's like what I'm recognizing is my body is needing to recuperate from all the stress I put on myself. Again, completely unaware of it because it had come so natural to me that I didn't even know that I was doing it until now I'm not doing it. And I'm like, wow, I really wore myself to a frazzle.
Good for you on letting go.
But I heard Abraham say something about, it's important to let go, and they specifically said not to let go of your desire, and we already have your desire noted, but let go of this struggle because we got it. It's like we're orchestrating things on your behalf. You gave us what you wanted. That was the step one, asking for what you want.
Right.
And now we take it from here. You just stay in the receptive mode and receive our impulses. And, like if there's an impulse to do something, you'll know. And it's kind of been a huge eye-opener to me, how much efforting, how much struggle, where I wouldn't have even called it struggle, but how much of that I have put in to everything that I've ever wanted. And I'm recognizing there's an easier, gentler way of going about manifesting something, and I wasn't aware of it until, I'm kind of flat on my back going, wow, what's up? I have no energy. And my body is saying, oh, let us just recoup. You have just worn us the hell out.
I tell you, I continue to be absolutely stunned and amazed at just how easily we all fall into the trap of push, of I got to make this happen, of I got to be doing something. I'm a human doing, not a human being. It's just amazing how easily we fall into that. I mean, I've been falling into that for years, for decades. Oh, my goodness. So, I mean, you have my sympathy. I know exactly what that's like. And boy, oh boy, to have a breakthrough like that, that is fantastic to have the release. Especially, I mean, we know that Project X is really important to you, and plus you've shared a few other things with me offline. I know how important Project X is to you. So to be able to release on that, that was really big.
It is a big deal, and I feel like overall it's an even bigger deal because I really understand it and know what it feels like to let go. And I know what it feels like to effort now. So it's like I have my own internal markers. So if I'm efforting, I'll know it. And if I'm letting go.
Do you feel like you'll actually know how to do it next time easier? Next time that you notice that you're efforting, you'll be able to more easily just let go?
Yes, because I know what it looks like.
Okay.
I know what it feels like. And that's the point I'm making. It's like because efforting was something I did so naturally, I didn't really recognize it or acknowledge it because I wasn't really even aware I was doing it. But through this process in last week, I now know what it feels like to effort, but I definitely know what it feels like to let go.
Yeah.
And to, I guess I'll say to have faith. It's like I have such incredible trust that the universe is working on my behalf that it's okay for me to let go. And I guess that's the biggest component is in the past, what I didn't know was my efforting was actually my way of saying, universe, I don't really trust you completely yet. So I know I need to do something because you may not have it all down.
I know that feeling real well. I'm an expert at that one.
So that to me is probably the biggest thing that came behind this shift, is recognizing, oh wow, my need to control and effort was my way of saying, universe, I don't really trust you. I don't really trust you. And I typed something up for just such a reason, in case this came to an appropriate place, and I think it does. This is something that was on one of my CDs. It was from the San Diego August 19th workshop. It's the last track. And I read it, or actually I heard it, and it was so profound to me that I recorded it and then typed it up. And I'm going to read it, if you don't mind, because
sure.
I think it's really big, and it really punctuates what I've been experiencing. So this is Abraham speaking, and they are saying, we don't want to tease you by acknowledging that we know what's in your vortex and that we know how to lead you from wherever you are to those magnificent outcomes. But we know where you stand in relationship to everything you want. And so it's not a tease. It's more like a fulfilling of a long-held agreement. You said, I'll go into my body. But good, we won't. And you said, I'll be on the leading edge. And we said, that's nice. We'll hold back where we can maintain vibration. And you said, I'll explore contrast. And we said, we really appreciate you doing that. It would benefit all of us. And you said, I'll find new. And we said, good, because the expansion of the universe depends upon it. And you said, I'll keep finding it. And we said, good, because that's what puts the eternalness in eternity. And you said, and I'll find new. And we said, we know. That's why you're going. And then we said, when you find the new, we'll shine a light on it so that you can find it too. Because when you find new, you're going to find it first by looking at what isn't wanted. And you're going to launch a rocket of desire that isn't going to be natural, because your vibration of sameness is what's natural. The new rocket of desire is new. And it's not easy for you to hold the new rocket of desire, because what caused you to launch it is more dominant in your vibration. So we said, once you launch the rocket, we'll give our undivided attention to the new that you have caused. And you said, I'll listen for you. And we said, we'll never stop broadcasting. And you said, I'll listen closely. And we said, we'll be loud and steady. And you said, I'll quiet my mind so that I can hear you. And we said, good.
Very nice.
That was the piece that showed me that I can trust the universe, because they will never stop broadcasting their signal of what I need to know. And honestly, I feel very choked up even saying this right now. It's like that was a piece that was so missing for me. It's like it allowed me to feel so loved and cared for, knowing that my inner being, also known by other names such as source energy or higher self or Holy Spirit or God, but I just never realized to what extent I was not allowing myself to recognize and know that I am so loved and so cared for by my inner being, that my inner being will never stop sharing with me what it is that I need to know. I'm not alone on this planet. I'm not just wandering about aimlessly. It's like I have an inner compass, and it's my job to quiet myself so I can hear, because the broadcast signal of what I need to know is always being sent to me. And I believe that because I didn't really trust the universe, that's why I felt I needed to help the universe out and keep efforting and make stuff happen. And when I really got this, I let go and went, I don't have to work so hard, because I will never be without guidance. It is always available to me.
So what does it feel like to have let go?
Like the most incredible relief and peacefulness. It's like it feels quiet inside. It feels quiet. Whereas in the past, it felt like there was always like a motor running, if you will. It's kind of like, when your air conditioning system turns on and you hear kind of the motor kick into gear.
Right.
And all of a sudden the silence goes to, and then when it turns off, it goes, you just have an awareness of a deep silence. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the difference. Okay. It's like, in a way, both the silence and the sound of the roaring motor, both are kind of white noise, but there is a distinctive difference between when the motor's constantly humming versus when it's quiet. And so for me, it's an interesting question, Walt, that you asked it. It feels quiet inside, which to me it equates as a sense of peacefulness.
And quiet is different. I mean, very different, it sounds like, from what you're used to feeling and hearing inside.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, I sleep every night with my ceiling fan on. I never turn my ceiling fan off in my bedroom. But when the electricity goes out and I don't have that slight hum in the background, the silence is deafening because that's how pronounced the silence really is. So it's like you don't pay attention to it like I don't pay attention to the sound of the ceiling fan. It's just always part of my background, and that's kind of how the efforting has been for me. It's just always a motor running in the background, trying to figure out how to make things happen. And all of a sudden, the motor's not having to run. And the motor was me running, but now there's silence because, you have to get silence to listen and to hear that inner voice of the inner being.
It reminds me a bit of when we, a number of years ago, visited some friends in Mount Snow, Vermont, which is a ski resort area. And they live very, very close to the ski resort. They have an A-frame and a nice little bungalow-type place that they live in. They live there, year-round, so it's not like they're just there for skiing or anything like that. They make their lives there. But we went up to stay with them, and we stayed in their guest room, which is a windowless room downstairs, actually in the basement area. And it has no window, and it has no audible connection to the rest of the house. It's like you don't hear anything down there. And when we spent the night there, we were kind of stunned by the fact that our senses were cut off. It was absolutely pitch black. You could not see the hand in front of your face at night when we were in bed. And the sound was gone. The only sound was us talking to each other when we talked. And the rest of the time, it was just dead silence. So two of our main senses, it's like they were just completely taken away for a night. And let me tell you, it was a little spooky. It was a little strange. Put it this way. We didn't volunteer to go back to stay overnight anytime soon. Not that we don't like our friends, because we do like our friends. Just, no, that much sense deprivation was not really in our vocabulary.
That's interesting.
But that's kind of what I thought of when you mentioned how everything went silent. And I know something about what it feels like to have silence inside, because I actually prefer that. I like staying both, like if I'm in a room where I'm working, I like it to be quiet in the room. I like it because I'm so oriented toward audible that any sound just grabs my attention because it's just like my strongest sense. So having the quiet is really a good thing for me. I can appreciate that.
There's been times that like quiet doesn't feel good to me, but this is a kind of quiet that had an element of peacefulness to it.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like.
This is where, it's like where my whole body just was able to settle down and just be, where I didn't feel like I had to do anything, which is really a different space to be in altogether.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be. And I also recognize that having taken vacation this week was just such a perfect opportunity for my inner being to allow me to experience this, because I didn't have anything that I was required to do this week, because if I was at work, it would be a whole different story because, then it's like there are lots of requirements and I can have a moment where like, yes, I can get an epiphany even while I'm at work, but it's not like I can really sit and rest in it where I've really had the opportunity to just rest in it. And it's like, it's okay to just be still. And it's like, wow.
Very different feeling, huh?
Yeah, I mean, because I would say since maybe Thursday, I haven't been, quote, doing anything actively on Project X. I haven't even been asking my typical questions like, well, what's next? What's next? What else should I be doing? It's like I haven't asked one question that would guide me toward doing anything. I have checked in, and I'll still ask every now and then, is everything still on track with Project X? And I get yes. I'm like, okay, so there's nothing I need to be doing? And I get no. I'm like, all right. So, that's kind of it for me as far as like what I've been doing since Thursday. Just I'm checking in with my inner being, just making certain that all's well. But I haven't been like struggling with the question of, okay, now what else can I do? What else can I do? Like a dog that's panting because they want to please their master so much, and they're just like sitting at attention, like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I think that's been me most of my life.
Yeah, so, the experience that comes to my mind is a golden retriever who will keep fetching the tennis ball as many times as you throw it. Doesn't matter how many times it is. He's ready for it any time at all. Day, night, doesn't matter.
And it's like the dog doesn't even require that there's a purpose behind why you keep throwing the ball out. It's like, it's just, what's the right word? It's like just hamster on spinning on the hamster wheel. It's just keeping busy. That's it. It's busy work. It's like when the golden retriever just keeps panting and wants something to do, and you throw the ball, you're giving the dog something to do. And then the dog fetches it, gives it back to you, and you throw it out, and you're giving the dog something to do. And in a way, it's kind of interesting, but that's what I've been asking the universe for. Just keep me busy. Just keep me busy. And so now here I'm going to ask the question, and why did I feel I needed to be busy? Well, because if I couldn't see any results, as long as I was keeping busy, it would distract me enough that I wouldn't go into doubt, worry, or concern. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah. Well, it makes sense, actually, in the context of what you were describing.
And that's like news just in as we're talking right now. I'm like, holy cow. Busy work to distract me from going into doubt, worry, and concern.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because I didn't have the trust or the faith yet to really know that my inner being has my back. Or that God has my back. Source energy has my back. That I'm cared for. Everything I need is being made available to me.
It's got to be a little bit funny kind of looking back in your past on this question too, because now as you look back, you almost marvel at all the different ways you kept yourself busy. Like you talk about a dog retrieving. I remember one time I was at a party. This is many, many years ago. I was at a party that a friend had invited me to on the shoreline of Lake Ontario. And I didn't really know many people at this party. Plus it was at a time in my life where I was not terribly gregarious. In fact, I was pretty much a wallflower, so I didn't make new friends very well at all. And so despite the fact that I'm at this party with all these people I don't know, there was absolutely no way I was going to go out of my way to get to know any of them, which was not particularly good for me. But nevertheless, it did set up an interesting scenario because there was a golden retriever there, and he loved chasing stuff, particularly into the water. Now, we're on the shoreline here. We're on the beach, right? And I saw the people had been throwing a tennis ball, and he was fishing the tennis ball, and so they kind of lost interest in it. But I picked up the tennis ball, and I was throwing the tennis ball, and he was swimming into the water and fishing it out, bringing it back. And then I said, well, let's see, let's try to expand this a little bit. So I found a stick, and I threw the stick into the water. He loved that. He ran after that stick like it was the last stick in the world, brought it back, put it at my feet, looked up at me expectantly. So I said, okay. So I threw it out again. He did the same thing, brought it back. So I said, well, let's just see how avid this dog is. So I got a bigger stick. This is like a 5-foot stick, right? Threw it out into the water. Instantly dashed after it. Came back dragging this stick. So I said, yeah, I bet you I can stop you. I saw a branch that had fallen off a tree. This branch was like 12 feet long. It had all these little branchlets off it all over the place. I mean, in order for him to carry this, he'd probably have to eat a full meal just to get the darn thing back on the shore. Took this thing, heaved it out into the water, and it starts floating with the tide down the shoreline. The dog is after it like a shot. I didn't see him for the next 20 minutes. 20 minutes later, dripping wet, he drags this thing up to my feet.
Oh, my goodness.
And he looks at me and says, okay, what now? How nice not to have to be the dog anymore.
Yeah, I don't have to be dripping wet any longer.
That's right.
And for what? Just to get my master's, like, good job, good job.
Yeah, right.
But, I wasn't doing it for, well, you know what? Maybe I was. Maybe I was doing it for myself. Because I gave myself kudos for continually hanging in there and constantly being in motion and never giving up and having incredible stamina.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's what was going on with the dog. The dog, I mean, he was pleased as punch that he brought that huge 12-foot branch back. I mean, he was the proudest animal on the entire beach, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So, same kind of thing for sure.
So, if anybody asks me tomorrow, what did I do on my vacation and how was it? I'll say it was magnificent. It was the most pleasant time of self-reflection and personal breakthrough and epiphanies than I could have ever experienced if I had been working. Like, what a wonderful time to be with myself.
It just occurred to me, too. I mean, you actually did what the word says to do. You vacated. You vacated that old habit. You left it behind.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And it's been such a profound thing for me. And because I've been because I've been so fatigued and haven't had the energy to really do a whole lot, it's almost like that has, that feeling non-motion is sort of anchored to the letting go of the struggle, is non-motion, because I've been in a state of pretty much non-motion for several days now in a row, 4 or 5 days. So.
Very good stuff. You were definitely in your creative workshop. I mean, that's what the subsection of the chapter is that we're supposed to be talking about today, but we're talking about it. You were in your creative workshop. You were doing your stuff. I mean, that piece that you read, that you picked up from Abraham that gave you an understanding of what it was that you were dropping the burden on and leaving it behind, saying, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to be doing in order to please somebody else. I'm letting that go. And in doing that letting go, I'm actually going to also let go of trying to manage Project X. I'm going to let go of trying to, manage the universe. I'm just going to let it do what it needs to do.
That piece that I read out loud that I got from the Abraham CD, for me, it so clearly defined what's my job and what's the universe's job. My job is to go out, explore, and define what I want and do the asking. That's my job. And that's step one. And then the universe's job is, hey, we got it. We're going to hold the vibration steady of the new rocket of desire that you have launched. And then it's your job, like my job, your job, human's job.
Right.
To get silent and listen. But it's like there's a back and forth exchange. And I remember last week you were asking something about what's my part in it? You don't want to believe that, we just show up here and it's predetermined, everything that's supposed to happen to us and our inner being is just going to guide us around and we have no part in being here. And I think part of you kind of mentioning that to me, a little bit online, a little bit offline, was kind of in my consciousness as I was kind of going forth this week. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to feel like I'm predestined and I show up and my inner being is just going to drag me around and tell me what to do. But it's like I got a much better understanding that they're saying, no, you go out on the leading edge. Hello, human who shows up on planet. You go out onto the leading edge, which is planet Earth, and you sift and experience things, and you decide what you prefer. And once you know what you want, we'll take it from there for the next segment. And then we'll help you to, move from, because they said it's not easy for us when we're living in a contrasting situation that we don't like, even though that's the very thing that produces the rocket of desire of what we prefer. It's not easy for us as humans to immediately abort the negative feelings of where we are and ride the train on, okay, here's the thing we prefer. Yippee, we're heading that way. No, it takes us a while because, either we're in pain or we're in anger, but there's some negative stuff we've got to shrug off before we can move into the good stuff that we're preferring.
Yeah.
And so I kind of saw that there's a back and forth between us and our inner being that we ask. They say, okay, we're going to hold the vibration of the new stuff that you prefer. And then, you human, it's your turn to get in the receiving mode. And when you're open, then it's our turn and we're going to tell you exactly how to get the thing that you want. And then you human, you receive it and rejoice in it and have fun and then start all over again.
Mm.
And I kind of recognize that there's this give and take. There's not even give and take. It's just we work together in tandem. We're also co-creating with our inner being as well as co-creating with other humans on the planet. And I kind of like that there was a lovely dance that those, our inner being is not physical. And so there's a vantage point from non-physical that can help us dramatically because we have limited sight, limited resources being in our physical being. And so it's what a beautiful dance and cooperative synergy that we have within our inner being. And I believe that's another thing why this thing that I read was so impactful for me, because I recognized how we do it together. So I'm not alone, and my inner being is not the guide telling me what to do. It's we do it together. And when we each are doing our piece, then there's a beautiful synergy, and things can happen very quickly. And another thing, since I've been tired, I've been watching movies and watching, my DVR is finally getting knocked down because I'm watching things and being able to erase them. But it's I'm watching some good stuff that has allowed me to connect to all the things that I desire. And what, one of the phrases that kind of has been internally going off for me is, Wendy, everything you've ever wanted is on its way to you now. I mean, everything. I'm in a space where everything is now open to me. And it's wow. And there's nothing more I have to do. And if my inner being needs my help on something, or I need to make a phone call or Google something or go to a store, whatever, I'll know. And then I get to do that part because I love to do that part. But in the meantime, it's letting go of the struggle is such a phenomenon for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's letting go of the struggle, but simultaneously I could let go of the struggle because I really trust that everything's under control. All the things that I desire, they're on their way to me. They're on their way. I've done the asking. That was the biggest part. That was the thing that set the rudder, so my inner being knows how to pull together the cooperative components to help bring it about. Wow.
It's very cool.
Quite magnificent.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me, well, first of all, I want to remind people, before I forget, that, a few things. First of all, I want to remind people about the Tuesday night show that we've added to the schedule, where Tom Wells and I come on at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesdays. For those people who've always wanted to call in, but for whatever reason they just can't do it during the day, so we figured, okay, let's give people a time when they can call in during the evening hours. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Time, by the way. I don't know if I said that. But call in during the evening hours and just talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Maybe you have your own win you want to talk about. Maybe you want to just share some ideas from your perspective about law of attraction. Maybe you have something you're looking for some advice on. It could be almost anything. But we really want people to feel encouraged to take advantage of the fact that Tom and I are here on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And to access us, just go to the webpage at loatoday.net. That's where you can listen live, first of all. And second of all, that's where you find all the information for how you connect, because we have this great new platform called the Zoom platform, and it shows you how to click a link and download an app, and boom, you connect right in, and then you can talk to us. So, and you can do that during the day too, by the way. You can call us at either the morning or the afternoon podcast, Monday through Friday as well. So it's not like you have to call Tuesday night, but we make it available for those of you who can't do it during the day. I also want to remind people, if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe and share. Again, all the instructions are now on that page. I don't even have to go through it, Wendy, anymore. I don't have to go through the instructions. It's right there on the webpage. It's right on loatoday.net.
I saw that you did.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is so cool. And then the share part is there, too.
I have a bizarre question for you all. This is a techie thing.
Okay.
I know one of the things I've heard you say many times, and one of the things that's on the loatoday.net says, if you don't have an iPhone, well, if you have an iPhone, go to iTunes. And then it's like, if you have an Android, go to Google Play. But you say, if you have an Android, such as an LG or a Motorola, a Nokia, blah, 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 I've always wondered why you name all those different brands. Are those different from Android, or are those types of Android?
They are all phones that use the Android operating system, but they are also among the most popular phones in the world. So I believe the most popular one, besides an iPhone, would be the Samsung. And then a close second, I believe, is the Motorola. So I just list the ones that are the really popular brand names.
Okay. That always confused me, because to me, I always thought it's either you have an iPhone or you have an Android. And when you threw in all those other things, it made me think like there were other possibilities.
No. I threw it in mainly because a lot of people who have Android phones don't realize what an Android phone is, which is interesting.
Okay.
I didn't realize that until I got to know a couple of people who did have them. And when I asked them, well, do you have an iPhone or Android, they had to stop and think, and they said, well, I guess it's an Android. I said, well, what's the model? Oh, it's a Samsung. Oh, well, then you have an Android phone.
Okay, well, that answers that curiosity. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly why I do it. Well, that's part of the fun of technology, right? Because everybody has different levels of technological expertise or fear, depending on which end of the stick you have. And we're trying to accommodate everybody because we don't want you to have to be technically savvy in order to listen to the podcast. So try to explain it every way we can.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get to the chapter, which we are now 38 minutes into the broadcast. We should probably get to the chapter, even though we've been talking about it all along. But no, I just want to make sure we do it because this is a nice long thing, kind of like what you read from the CD, from the DVD that you found. But this is a nice long thing of things to talk about and things to say to yourself when you're doing your creative workshop by yourself. So I'm going to just...
And if you don't know what a creative workshop is...
let's review that. Because we talked about it last week.
You can listen to our show from Friday, which was the one or I'll just kind of give a brief summary.
Yeah, do that.
Which is Abraham suggests you kind of notice different things in your life, things you observe that you really like, and then when you get into your creative workshop, which is really just a quiet space that you spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and you kind of take each thing that came to your attention that you really like, and it's where you get to milk the feelings of what it would feel like if that was something that you manifested. And this is for the purpose of kind of teaching us how to focus on something with our feelings so that we could get our feelings in a place that we can broadcast the signal so that it can come to us. Even though the workshop itself is not specifically for the purpose of manifesting, but, if you do it really well, you probably will manifest the things that you play with in your creative workshop.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I actually think of the workshop as, partly to manifest stuff, but I think of it as a way to get myself into that higher vibration, the good feeling place. because that's my main goal. If I can feel good, that's I've already won. Regardless of what manifests, I've already won. And if I can stay there, then I've won even bigger. So that's my motivation.
But when you say feel good, I think that's very generic, because I think this is like feeling good in specific areas of your life.
Yes. Oh,
like
yes.
You feel good. Like if you happen to notice, a coworker getting a bouquet of flowers, and you take that into your creative workshop, and you focus on how good it feels when you get flowers and how special you feel, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, of course that feels good, but it's something, it's a feeling that's tied to a specific type of desire.
Yeah, it's feelings associated with life, with all of the aspects of living, not just abstractly feeling good outside of it. It's being part of life and enjoying the life.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
so I just wanted to get more specific.
That's good.
Yes, you're going to feel good, but it's not just about feeling good. It's about feeling good in specific ways.
And I think that actually becomes evident as we read the chapter. So let's get into it. It says, and now you are feeling happy. Oh, that was one of the prerequisites. You have to get yourself into a relatively happier place before you even try to do this. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. If you start from a point of depression, that probably is not your best point of starting, don't you think?
I agree.
So now you are feeling happy and you are sitting someplace in your workshop. Here is an example of the work you may do in your creative workshop. It says, I like being here. I recognize the value and power of this time. I feel very good to be here. I see myself in a sort of total package, one that I know is of my own creating and certainly a package of my own choosing. I am full of energy in this picture of myself, tireless and really moving through life experience without resistance. As I see myself gliding about, moving in and out of my car, in and out of buildings, in and out of rooms, in and out of conversations, and in and out of life experiences, I see myself flowing effortlessly, comfortably, and happily. I see myself attracting only those who are in harmony with my current intent, and I am clearer and clearer in every moment about what it is I want. When I get into my automobile and I am moving to a place, I see myself arriving healthy and refreshed and on time, and prepared for whatever it is that I'm about to do there. I see myself dressed to perfection in just the manner that I choose for myself. And it is nice to know that it matters not what others are choosing or what others are even thinking about what I am choosing. What is important is that I am pleased with me, and as I see myself, I certainly am. I recognize that I am unlimited in all facets of my life. I have a bank account balance that is unlimited, and as I see myself moving through life experiences, it is exhilarating to know that there is nothing that I am choosing that is limited by money. I am making all of my decisions based upon whether I want the experience or not based upon whether or not I can afford the experience. For I know I am a magnet who attracts, at any point, whatever prosperity, health, and relationships I choose. I choose absolute and continuing abundance, for I understand that there is no limit to the abundance in the universe, and that by my attracting abundance to myself, I am not limiting another. There is enough for everyone. The key is for each of us to see it and want it, and then we will each attract it. And so I have chosen unlimited, not necessarily putting a big stash away, for I understand that I have the power to attract it as I want it for whatever I want it for. And as I think of something else that I want, the money flows to me easily, so I have an unlimited supply of abundance and prosperity. There are abundant aspects in every area of my life. I see myself surrounded by others who, like me, want growth, and who are drawn to me by my willingness to allow them to be, do, or have whatever they want, while I do not need to draw into my experience those things that they may be choosing that I do not like. I see myself interacting with others and talking and laughing and enjoying that which is perfect in them while they enjoy that which is perfect in me. All of us are appreciating one another, and none of us is criticizing or noticing those things that we do not like. I see myself in perfect health. I see myself in absolute prosperity. I see myself invigorated with life, again, appreciating this physical life experience that I wanted so very much as I decided to be a physical being. It is glorious to be here as a physical being, making decisions with my physical brain, but accessing the power of the universe through the power of the law of attraction. and it is from this marvelous state of being that I now attract more of the same. It is good. It is fun. I like it very much. I will leave this workshop, and I will set out, during the remainder of this day, to look for more things that I like. It is nice to know that if I see one who is prosperous, but sick, I do not need to bring the whole package into my workshop, just the part that I like. So I will bring the example of prosperity, and I will leave out the example of sickness. My work for now is done. Now, I'm not sure if I could do all that on the spur of the moment in my workshop, but that's a good thing to aspire to.
Yeah. I was going to say that's a total Abraham rampage, if ever
it really
there is one.
Oh, my goodness. Now, one thing that I did find fascinating in there was the whole thing about unlimited abundance. I have a bank account balance that is unlimited, and I see myself moving through my life experiences. It is exhilarating to know that there is nothing that I am choosing that is limited by money. I have had conversations with many people, including co-hosts on the show, who have suggested maybe that's reaching too far. Maybe that's beyond the level of belief. And yet here they are actively saying, believe in the unlimited abundance. So I want to ask you, what's your take on that one?
I can't imagine anybody who believes in law of attraction saying that this is beyond belief. I totally believe this. I have been affirming this for years and years and years before I even knew Abraham. I totally believe this. And even though I don't, like my bank account, well, let me say it this way. Financially, I'm not like a billionaire, but I feel as though I am. I mean, I feel the abundance and the prosperity and the financial wealth of someone who is a billionaire. And there's very little that I don't feel like I can buy. I mean, I pretty much buy anything I want. Now, granted, I don't have a billionaire's lifestyle yet.
Well, one of these days, who knows?
But, I knew that the most important thing for me was to reach a point where the feelings of abundance was such a part of just who I am, that I knew that once I reached that place feeling-wise, that being a millionaire, billionaire was just the next logical step.
It's also interesting, too. They note that it is not like you have to stash the money away. That's what I think of with a billionaire. They're stashing it away. They're stashing all these resources all over the place. You don't really have to stash it. I mean, when you really get to that place, just as you're describing it, it sounds like you've actually gotten to the place where you just feel it's available anytime you want to reach for it.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to hide it away or something.
Sitting on my butt this week, guess what I've been doing?
What's that?
Online shopping.
Okay.
So I've been spending money, and, in my old way of looking at the world, I would have said I'm spending money I don't have. But that's not true. As a matter of fact, the moment I, put it on my credit card, I paid off that credit card. And then I spent some more on it, and I paid off the credit card. There's money in my checking account to cover that. And I look at what's in my checking account, and I'm like, yeah, barely made a dent in it, and besides, payday's around the corner. So and then I got more in my checking account because payday happened during this week, and it's like, yep, just like I thought. My balance hardly ever goes down anymore.
So you're not doing what some people do where they say, okay, I'm going to practice this law of attraction even though I'm deep in debt, and I'm just going to spend the money like a drunken sailor because I know that the money's on its way. You don't do that.
No, because I've worked my way up incrementally, step by step, where first I got out of debt. Yeah, I had a mountain of debt, but then I got out of debt. And then I want to learn how to live where I can pay off anything that I want to buy. And I just happen to have had a habit where if I spent the money, then I could always manifest a way to create the money to pay the bill. And I went, okay, well, I've gotten really good at that. Now let's see if we could do it the other way around. Let's see what happens if I create the money first and have the money just sitting there. And then when something comes to mind that I want to buy, I already have the money. That's where I'm at now. It's really fun.
It sounds fun.
It's totally fun. Like I said, though, didn't happen overnight. And when I do spend money, Now, granted, I love a discount. I love to buy everything with a coupon. I never hit place order until I've shopped to see if there are coupons available, because that's just part of the excitement for me. But
You sound like my wife.
I mean, there was kind of a big purchase. It was a coffee table that I'd been looking for a really long time, like over a year. And finally, I gave up because I just couldn't find what I wanted. And although I had found something I wanted before, but it was out of stock, well, all of a sudden it's back in stock. And I even saw reviews where people were saying how it had been out of stock for months and months and months. And I'm like, oh, it's back in stock. I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend the money. I really like having a big cushion in my checking account. But every time I would look at my current coffee table and I had the catalog out with the coffee table I wanted, for the last couple of days, I just kept getting this impulse, like, yeah, go ahead and buy it. Go ahead and buy it. Go ahead and buy it. And I'm like, okay, that's a big chunk of change. And then it was like I hit place order, and I had just such a sense of peacefulness and calm, like it's the right thing to do. So in answer to your question, I'm still using my inner guidance to let me know whether a purchase is a good thing for me. Where when I was in debt and I got the impulse to buy, most of the time the impulse was an addictive feeling, and there was a racing feeling, and it was a distraction from my debt. Because if I bought something, temporarily it made me feel not so broke. Because when you spend money, you feel kind of abundant.
Which
but
is
you know
a
what?
way of saying it, because you felt not so broke. So it was still the lack end of the stick. It was just a little bit less lack.
Yeah, until all of a sudden then the bill came and it was oh crap, how am I going to pay this?
That is more lack.
All along, I've been paying attention to what my inner signals are. And so in a way, and this might sound funny, I felt like my inner being was prodding me and almost begging me, go ahead and buy the coffee table, gosh darn it. You're ready. You have the money. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if I want to, I just didn't want my balance to come down. And then I was shown, well, you're going to get a bonus. My bonus is at the end of February. I'm like, oh, okay. So I just pre-spent my bonus. Okay. But yet I already had the money in my checking account. So it was kind of like, okay, all right, it works for me. But bottom line, I'm paying attention to my inner guidance signals. It's okay to buy this. I wasn't being an anorexic spender. No need to go there. And I have finally gotten myself to a point. I have money in the bank. That's where I am right now. And it's like, what a great feeling.
Yeah,
so,
that is good.
I don't know. You were talking about how maybe some of the co-hosts weren't so sure about which part of this?
Well, Joel, for instance, has talked about how he will counsel a client, and one of his favorite stories is the client who was a salesperson. I think he was making $60,000, and he was despondent because there were others in the office who were making twice as much as he was. And Joel asked him, well, how much would you like to make? He said, $250,000. And Joel said, well, how firmly do you believe in that? And the guy kind of waffled, and he said, well, let's go for it an increment at a time. Let's go for $70,000. Then they made $70,000. Let's go for $80,000. Then they made $80,000. Let's go for $90,000, and they made $90,000. He finally got up to like $110,000 within a year.
Cool.
So that's the case where Joel would have said that it was too much to aim for the really big figure, and certainly to aim for unlimited. But because he couldn't believe it, he had to be able to believe it. If the client could believe it, then it's fine. But if he couldn't believe it, then it was kind of pointless to aim at it.
And I have asked for things like that, such as I want to be able to believe in any amount of money. I want to be at the point where I can believe in 100,000 or $250,000 or $1 million or $1 billion. I want to be at the point where I can believe in that. So whatever is required for me to get to that point, that's where I want to go. And, incrementally, just like the guy who went from 60 to 70 to 80 to blah, 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 that's what I've done. Yes, I've done it in how much I really make, but I've done it in how I feel. And the feeling always came first.
That's the key, isn't it? The feeling has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't come first, it ain't going to happen. That's what I've learned. I've learned the hard way many, many ways over the years. I am the expert of all the hard ways to go. If you have any questions about how to go the hard way, I'm your guy.
Well, and here's the good news about doing it the hard way. When you've done it the hard way, every single time you did it the hard way, you added to your vortex of reality. You added to your vortex of what you prefer. Every single time you beat your head against the wall in the same area over and over, you've asked for it again, and you've asked for it again, and you've asked for it again. And I'll tell you why that to me is exciting. Because I've got a couple areas of my life where I have beaten my head to a bloody pulp. I've asked so many times through the contrast of living of life. And now I'm not beating my head against the rock anymore. I'm kind of in a neutral place about in that same area, the area where I was asking, feeling desperate. And I'm like, what I do know is that for all the askings and all the intensity of the pain and negativity and what I felt suffering and even despair that I felt in this area of life, on the polar opposite is what's coming to me. My asking has not gone on for nothing. It's not like the person who asks one time and doesn't care that much and they receive, and it's like, yeah, it's nice that they received, but the meaning is not nearly as great. But it's like when you've asked a lot and it has a lot of meaning to you, because that's why it felt so bad, because that was, you wanted it so desperately. It's like by the time it shows up, when it shows up, it is so much bigger, grander, and more magnificent than you could have ever imagined. And the delight and satisfaction level is so much deeper and richer than the person who never had an issue with it to begin with.
So what you're saying is I have something really to look forward to here.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
Cool.
And so if you never struggled in whatever area you're thinking of, then the fulfillment of it would just be like, yeah, that's nice. But when you've really struggled, when it shows up, when you're receptive to it and you no longer have any resistance keeping it from you, when it shows up, the satisfaction level is like off the chain.
Well, I can hardly wait then. And I think there's a good chance it's coming soon.
I totally believe that.
I really think it is. I don't always allow myself to believe that, but especially when we're doing the podcast, I really believe it. That's when I feel it the best. And like right now, I'm feeling it a lot. And I think it's actually going to start with this book that's coming out soon. By the way, I want to remind people, you want to make sure you're subscribed, because only people who are subscribed are going to be keeping up with the shows, and the people who keep up with the shows are the ones going to know how to get a free copy of that ebook. So just a little word to the wise there. Just a little bit of a tease.
And just like you had mentioned right before that little marketing message about the book, when you were talking about how when you're in the podcast with me or one of the other co-hosts, your belief of what is coming to you feels that much more amplified. To me, I totally have the same experience, and I'm really hoping that our listeners can put themselves in their own position of feeling the amplification that the show can bring to them too. It's not just we're not just talking to talk at anyone, and it's not just we're talking to ourselves, but we're talking with at least I believe, with the intention that those who listen can be a part of what we're talking about, where if Walt says something about what he wants, as a listener go, I want that too. If you like what I'm doing in my life and the manifestations I'm creating, I want to be like that too. I want some of that. How do I get that? And just joining your energies to what we're talking about amplifies it so that it does start moving in the direction of you getting to receive it as well.
And we're going to have to leave it there because we're out of time. But this has been great, Wendy, and I'm looking forward to doing it again tomorrow.
I'm going to be here. Let's do it again.
I'm going to be here as well, and we'll hope that we'll see you all tomorrow as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye now.